everybody, my name is Georgia French and I'm one of the fitness and sports instructors here at Canadian Forces Base Moose Jaw, home of the Snowbirds and Canadian Forces pilot training. Today I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a run technique session. So different things to look at with your running technique to improve it, whether you're a seasoned runner or a beginner, to make running that much easier. Most of you I know would look at things and go, it's running. You put on a pair of shoes and you go. Well, there's a lot more to it than just that. And I see that all the time when I've been coaching people. I've been racing and coaching people for over 20 years. So I feel like I do have a little bit of knowledge in this area. Maybe not as much as some of you, but I feel like I do have a little bit of knowledge. So by getting your technique down so you are moving efficiently and well, you're going to do things to make your body feel so much better when you're running. You're going to decrease your injuries by this. So it's not just, a lot of people think they just get injured by doing things too much, but by doing things incorrectly, you can get injured. You're going to make your running just feel so much better and as comfortable as I would like to say, as say sitting on the couch and doing nothing at all. It just will prevent you from feeling beat up at the end of a run. And I feel that a lot of people say that all the time, that they just feel so beat up at the end of their runs. And a lot of times it's just from poor movement mechanics. So I'm going to focus on different areas of the body, the upper body and the lower body. Going to give you some movements, going to give you some drills to help you work on those areas to hopefully make you better and more efficient in your running, okay? First, we're going to concentrate on the upper body and its contribution to your running technique. Your upper body plays a much larger role in running than people think. They always just think it's their legs that matter, but your upper body is so important because what starts there will go all the way through and flow through your body. So you have to think of your body as a kinetic change. What happens in one area affects another area. So that's super important, okay? First thing is, we're gonna start from the top, is your head. You wanna be looking out, right? You wanna be looking out, your ears in line. You don't wanna be like this. That might sound simple, but what a lot of people do is because we sit like this all day at our computers now, that's what we tend to do. So a good test to see if your head is good is what you do is you take your second finger and your thumb and you place it right here on the bones right there. Then you take your finger and you place it on the chin. That is usually a good height, okay, when you're doing this. That way too, it's also going to ensure that you're gazing about 20 meters ahead of you. What you don't want to be doing is doing this, or if you're here and your finger is bent, that's not good, okay? Keep your head up. By putting your head up, what it automatically does is works on to the next area to get your shoulders back. Shoulders back. Think about rolling them, standing tall. But if your head is already back, it helps do that. Once again, what we'll do is we're on our computers all the time and we end up being like this, right? And then you're all hunched over. So think about rolling your shoulders back, keeping them low when you're here, okay? Keep them loose, don't tense up. I see runners all the time tensing up, and that, once again, that kinetic chain, it goes all the way through your body, and then everything else gets tight along the way, okay? So keep them loose. I tell people all the time when they're running to shake it out. Once in a while, and often when I'm out running, every 10 minutes or something, I just give my arms a little bit of a shake, okay? That takes us into our next part, your arms. So we've done your head, where you want it to be, your shoulders are back. Now I'm thinking about my arms. Arms are so important because what you do with your arms translates into your legs. So what you actually want to think of when you're running is you want to be at a 90-degree angle with your arm, okay? You want to be at a 90-degree angle and you want to be moving those arms back and forth, okay? Back and forth. You do not want those arms to be crossing in front of your body, because if your arms are crossing in front of your body, what are you telling your legs to do? Left, right, left, right, left, right. And you want to be going forward and back. It's incredible how much that decreases your efficiency when you're running, when your arms are like that, okay? If you think about sprinters, they drive with their arms, right? They drive with their arms when they are running. They keep them loose. Okay, they're not tight, because once again, if you're tight there, you're tight in your shoulders, tight here, you clench, everything falls apart. I know it seems silly because it's your legs doing the motion, but it all comes from here. So what I like to tell people to do is to imagine a line down the center of their body. Take times to do drills, okay? You got that line, your hands aren't allowed to cross. You want your hands going forward and back. what I recommend that you do as a drill is you put one foot in front of the other as though you're running, okay? And for 15 seconds, you just get those arms going, okay? Get those arms going for 15 seconds. Sounds crazy. Elbows up nice and high, driving behind you. After the 15 seconds, stop, regroup, take the other foot. Because when you're running, you've got one foot in front of the other. Take the other side, go with those arms up, making sure you're not doing this. Keeping those arms nice and tight. I like to tell people, almost thinking that you're coming by your hips every time, okay, as you are running. And just don't let them be too stiff, okay? Just a little bit of looseness there for them when you're using those arms. But that, like I said, that is a great drill, okay? Something you can do to emphasize, like, are my arms good? How important are they? I love to do this with people when I start running with them. I'll do a drill with them where I make them run and I make them keep their hands at the side of their body. And then you have to run like that. So now you look like a penguin, okay? So I tell people, I say run, and you try to run, but now your arms are next to the side of your body. And now you're not getting any propulsion forward because you need those arms to help propel you forward, okay? That's so important. So that's a good drill to practice on your own if you want to see how important your arms are to your running. Take your hands to the side of your body, okay? Don't let them be used at all. And then as you go for a run down the way, you try to run, right? It looks silly so you've got to utilize them, okay? Next, what you want to do is make sure your hands are loose. When I used to do running clinics all the time, I would have one run in every group, then everyone would come and I'd give them a bag of chips. Chips on a run? Well, what it was for is to make sure that their hands stayed nice and loose. And I said, if you finish your run and you don't break those chips, you can eat them. It's kind of gross because they were probably all sweaty and stuff anyways afterwards. So keep those hands loose, okay? If you clench your fists, then you end up clenching your arms, then you clench your shoulders, and then it all falls apart, okay? Now you're tight, it translates all the way through your body, and you're not going to get a good foot motion, okay? So we've talked about our head, we've talked about our shoulders, we've talked about our arms. Doing that drill, imagine that drill, and when you're running, thinking about that line that your hands cannot cross, okay? Take a notice of that the next time you go out and see somebody running. Watch that, okay, on them. And then hands are loose. Next most important thing is your chest, okay? Your chest needs to be up. You need to be up and tighten and engage your core. Your chest, though, if your shoulders are back, should be open anyways. If you're like this, what's going to happen is your rib cage, everything is compressed. So now your lungs are not going to get the air that they need to get in, okay? That's super important. You need that air. So, and now you're all compromised. Now your pelvis is getting thrown out. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit right now, but you're getting thrown out in that, and now you're not standing tall. If you're like this, I'm not going to be able to get my feet under me and in front of me properly, okay? So I need to think chest is up and it's open by rolling those shoulders. I almost think squeeze, retract, so your scapulas are coming close to each other. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's what I want you to be thinking when you do this, okay? If you do this now and engage your core, your pelvis will stay under you, and this is essential in order to get that nice foot strike and come up, okay, when you're doing this. A nice drill for this is to stay tall. You stand tall, okay? Put your hands on your hips so you know that they're square under you. Then what I do is go up on my toes and I fall forward until I start to run. So standing tall with that chest is so important, especially nowadays, because everyone, like I've said earlier with everything else, is we sit like this all the time. So our body is very comfortable like that. And our body always wants to go to the path of least resistance and what is easiest for it. Even if it's not what's best for it, that's what it wants to do. And we've all become so rounded over, not engaging our core. And I see this all the time in runners, right? Or you'll see the marathon shuffles, people get tired and they start running like this, or they shuffle. And you can hear their feet on the ground. So that's where it's so important. You've really got to think about opening up and engaging that core and getting that chest back, because your body is naturally going to want to do that, because you were doing that at 8 hours for 8 hours at work today, a lot of people, right? So your body just wants to do that. Then you come home and sit on your couch. What do? You sit like that. So that's really important to think about. So sit back, because now your whole chain is affected. 2 drills that I like to do with people for this to make them think about that and being tall like that is, first of all, and these are 2 exercises that you can do all the time and incorporate into a workout routine to help you engage that core. And it's not about doing crunches and all that, okay? So the first one is you're lying down. We've all seen these Supermans, okay? Have your thumbs up, your head up, and you're gonna come up, pause, hold for 10 seconds, and down. Come up, pause for 10 seconds. I know that seems like a long time. And then down, okay? And then activate your glutes and your back. It's also teaching your glutes to activate for when we're talking about that in a little while, how important your glutes are. That's the first one, okay? Second one is what you're doing is you're gonna lie down on your back, and you're gonna do like a hollow back exercise, okay? Hollow back exercise, you're down, push your low back into the floor, push your chest back into the floor. Now what I want you to do is, as though you're running, pick up one foot and lift a hand and go up and down. I'm trying to keep your low back into the floor, and do not let your head come up, because that's what wants to happen when you do this. It's just an idea, so you have an idea how the movement pattern is. Then you do the other side, taking that foot up and down. Push the low back down, push the shoulders down, keep the head down, okay? Up and down on this. And that is teaching your body how to stay nice and flat and not round in. It's just something to give you a proprioception for it, so you have an understanding of how that movement works, okay? That's what you're thinking of. Last but not least, for upper body really, is our breathing, okay? People always ask me, when do I breathe? A lot of times I recommend breathe in for 2 steps, out for 2 steps. What you want to practice though is standing with your hand on your chest and your belly, and make sure you're taking in big breaths, okay? There's a lot of research say people wonder why they get side stitches, and often people say it's because they're not getting a deep enough breath, okay? Try to get that breath right deep into your belly. So a nice drill for yourself is just to sit there, hand on the chest, hand on the belly, breathe deep in. It's okay, nice and deep all the way down. It's like when they talk about in the military them yelling commands. You don't yell from here, you take it deep from here. So it's the same idea. Deep breath. So feel that. Take your time. You can also lie on the floor and do this and just take a bunch of breaths. I also recommend out, in and out through the mouth and nose. Just loose with your mouth, and you can utilize both while you're out there running, okay? Perfect. Good breathing. When you have good breathing, you can do that as well just by having your chest open, because as soon as I said you go like this, now my rib cage, everything is compressed in, my lungs aren't able to fill up with a lot of air. That's not good. You're not going to maximize that breath that you can get in, okay? So that's something else to think about. So we've gone over our head, right up, shoulders back, chest open, using those arms, okay? Shoulders loose, nice, good, deep breaths because we're open up. That's our upper body, okay? Now, on to the lower body. Lower body, this is where everyone knows, oh yeah, okay, I run with my feet. That's what it is. But it actually comes from your hips and your glutes, okay? Everything that you do comes from there. I'm a firm believer that almost every injury that happens to people is because that they are weak and immobile in their hips and in their glute area. So I think that even though you might have something wrong with your foot, you have an IT band syndrome, runner's knee, I think it all comes from a weak glutes and immobile hips. So it's super important that you engage those and teach them how to train and do exercises to make them strong, so that when you're running, you keep them under you. What happens a lot of times is people, they are chronically tight in their hamstrings, and they'll either get an anterior or a posterior tilt in their glutes, their hip area, and then that's going to change your running mechanics. If you're tight in your hip and glute area too, you actually can't step forward enough, and that's where we're going to talk about in a sec, where you get people who heel strike because they can't activate. They also are unable to pick their feet up behind them. So you really want to work on that area so that they're nice and tight under you, so that when you're exercising and running, that they activate and work properly, okay? So it's so much more than just your feet hitting the ground, okay? You've really got to think about that. A couple of exercises that I like to work on with people to make their glutes and hips and teach about activating them and utilizing them. You can do it with or without weights. You do a single leg deadlift. I just think this is the bread and butter of almost every exercise that you do. So you're here, standing tall. Think about your foot as a pendulum, okay? And now what I want you to do is I want you to rotate forward. Now you only go as far until your hip wants to open up, okay? You only want to go that far. So if you're holding a weight, you hold weights, coming down, coming up, swing that pendulum. Going down, swinging up like a pendulum. Make sure you do both sides. As you're doing this, make sure that that hip doesn't open up, slow and controlled. Think about your glute and your hip pulling you up, okay? Think about that as you do it. There's lots of videos online about this to show you and work on deadlifts. I just think it is a key exercise that everyone should have in their program, especially runners. The other one that I think that people should do, is glute bridges, okay? So with a glute bridge, push your feet are down, okay? You're lying down. What I want you to do is hands down. Do not let your hamstrings do the exercise for you. Think about pushing your heels into the ground, okay? Think about your glutes pulling you up. So pull up, hold for 10 seconds. Only go as high as you can. If you start to feel it in your lower back and strain, that means you've gone too high. So go as high as your glutes will take you, okay? Hold for 10 seconds, keep that head down, back down. Driving the heels into the floor each time. Once you've mastered that, you do one on each side, holding. So once you've mastered the glute with one leg, holds on either side, you can actually add elements of elevation to that to make it more difficult. Next, another great exercise is a modified side plank. So you're here, arm tracking straight down. You're going down, leg up, you go up, take your leg up, squeezing with the glute, back down, up, hold for 10 seconds so that glute has to activate and your hip has to activate, and down, okay? Both sides. I recommend doing 5 to 10 reps of that, but each time you're holding for about 10 seconds when you do this, okay? Activating that glute. Next one are bird dogs. You're here, it's a modified bird dog. So you're here, a traditional bird dog is you're out and in. What I actually want you to do is in that position, you're gonna come up like a dog peeing, come out, straighten the leg, then bring it in. Take it down, up, out, in. The whole time keeping your hips level, you're not rotating up. When I rotate up, it's my leg rotating up. It is not my whole hip rotating up, okay? So I'm nice and level, flat, up, rotate like a circle. I'm making circles, bring it in. The whole time, my glutes and hips are doing the work. Make sure that you do both sides, okay? Not just your good side or the side that you like. Do 10 reps on either side, maybe 2 sets of those. That's another great exercise. The last one is about getting glute activation. You're here, it's like a hip flexor drive. So you're here like you're running, almost like a modified lunge. Then you come up and you pause. You come down, you come up, you pause. Down, come up, pause. Same thing, 2 sets of 10 for those, okay? So there's 5 great exercises there. I prescribe them to everybody I coach, okay? Because I think it is super important that you incorporate them, and I say that they should do them twice a week in their sessions. You can do it before a run, because that way now your hips and glutes are activated and they're ready to go running, okay? So now they're firing and they're warmed up. I think it's a great time to do them. Like I said, 2 rounds of 10 usually for each of those, okay? Next, that'll help keep those hips, teach those hips to be under you, activate those glutes while you are running, so you don't start to tilt, and so that you can get a good foot stance out there, okay? Another thing I see with problems with people with their hips is they let one side collapse. We all tend to do as you're talking, you start going like this because you tend to just want to relax the one, and that happens in running too. You want to make sure that your hips are nice and tall and tight under you, okay? So a good drill for this is to stand and just try to focus on staying still, because the natural thing that your body wants to do is do this. Don't let it happen. Train your hips to be nice and tall, okay, and still. You're here, same thing. You're gonna have a good side and a bad side. You'll feel your feet start to grab, but that's okay. That's what you want, and you want to keep that leg nice and stiff, and then just a slight bend. Just keep that foot off of there, okay? That's what you're thinking about, and that's to help teach your hips to not drop from side to side, because that'll change your running mechanics, okay? So that's an important one too, that you can add to your repertoire of exercises with your hip area, okay? I recommend doing that and just holding it 5 to 10 seconds, down, 5 to 10 seconds. Do between 5 and 10 reps on each side for that one, okay? All these things, like I said, are helping those hips and those glutes be strong. So now, the big one for all of this is probably our last one that we're gonna go through today, okay? Is foot strike, okay, and heel lift. Everything that we do through here affects how we step when we run, okay? There are 3 main ways that people run. You've got your heel striker, you've got your mid striker, which is somewhere from here to here they run, and then your toe, your person who runs on their toe. There's been a lot of controversy out there, which way is the best way, which way is the worst way. I know when I first started, my coaches used to say you had to run heel to toe, and I ended up with so many stress fractures. I had 8 stress fractures in 6 years. So what I did is I learned how to run from a mid to a forefoot when I ran, and that decreased the number of injuries that I had, okay? So it's super important, but those are your 3 main ones. You also have your shuffler, and you hear that person when they run, right? The marathon shuffle, as I like to call it. You don't want to do that either, okay? You want to be able to pick your feet up while you are running. So you really need to think about that, because with heel strikers, I want to encourage most people to try to hit with a mid to a forefoot when they're running, because people who heel strike, they end up breaking with every step. So you're going against that forward motion that you want. You're totally going against that forward motion, because with every step, as you're doing it, you're break, 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 okay? You're telling your body to stop, and that's not what you want to be doing. You want to be going forward. There is a time to heel strike though, and that's maybe running downhill, right? Because you do want to break a little bit then. So people who generally have a lot of heel striking, like I just said to you, end up with problems with stress fractures, or the all-encompassing shin splints, as they say it to people, okay? So that can be a big issue. So you want to try to train your body to hit from the mid to the forefront, okay, while they're running. There are different drills that you can do for this. One of the big things that I love doing is I tell people when they come to any running clinic I tell them to the first thing I do is take your shoes off. Take your shoes off. And we're gonna run barefoot in the grass, okay? Just for a little bit. I get them to run little circles in the grass. And what that does, as soon as you take your shoes off and you start running, you are not gonna hit the ground with your heel, because it hurts. So that trains people right away to get those feet under them when they are running and striking with their mid to front of their foot instead of doing the heel. I think anybody should do that in their running anyways. It also feels super good on your feet to do that. So I really think that they should do that, so those heel strikers can get away from that. Heel strikers are the ones that I see that have the most pain. They always talk about how it's jarring and it hurts, and they feel so beat up at the end of their run. It's not only coming from the kinetic chain, but it's always that hitting that you are doing, okay? So there's some drills that I use a lot with runners, and you'll see them time and time again with people to help people to stop heel striking and go more from a mid to a forefoot, getting their feet under them and kicking those heels up, okay? So first one, what I like to do is I go through them slowly, then fast, and then you get motions in them. And each one of these should be done 3 sets of about 20 seconds, okay? Because then your brain gets tired, and then you can't focus on it anymore. So the first one are high knees, just as so high knees, you're landing on your toes, slow and controlled. Okay, it's teaching you to bring your knees up. It's also teaching you to use those hips, those glutes, get you going. Then once you get them, you start going faster. So now that you can do high knees fast, okay, now what I want you to do is start moving when you do it. So high knees, drills. that's teaching you to land on the balls of your feet. It's also teaching you to drive with your arms and bring your knees up. Vital drill. Next one, our butt kickers. So once again, because we're trying to teach our feet to pick up behind us instead of shuffling, okay? If you're not strong in your hips though, in your glutes, it's not gonna work, okay? So you gotta make sure you're strong in there. So you start once again, kicking, use the arms at the same time. Right, now when I can do it. So once again, this is teaching me light on my feet. Then once I've mastered that, then I start moving and doing it, okay? I start moving and doing it. 20-second bouts for that, 20-second bouts. Like I said though, this is teaching our hips and our glutes as well to activate, teaching us to have a high turnover, and it's teaching us not to land on our heels, to utilize that mid and that forefoot, okay? Next, we have ankle drills. So you're here, I'm on my toes, and I'm just on my toes, going like this. Okay, just in place, using the arms, so no high knees or anything. This is just teaching us, okay, to be light on our feet, light on our toes, okay? That is a great drill, okay? Once again, once you're good at it, you move forward and do it. So I'm not doing high knees or anything there. All I'm doing is being on my toes all the time, up and down on my ankles, okay? Up and down on my ankles. So we have high knees, butt kickers, ankle drills. The other one, then when you can incorporate it into it, is more of a bounding. So a bounding is a skip. So skipping, bounding, this one you do need an area that you can move on, okay? Basically you're driving with the arms, really teaching that driving with the arms, but then you are bounding, landing mid to forefoot. You're activating everything that you have done. It's an exaggerated skip, okay? I use these drills as warm-up drills when I'm working with people I coach. We go through butt kickers, we go through high knees, we go through bounding, we go through those ankle ones. Okay, those are super important. 3 times 20 seconds of each. Like I said, it's helping you stay on your toes, your midfoot, teaching you to keep your feet under you. Because a heel striker, what ends up happening is if you're tight in here, you end up striking to your heel, you only know how to move your leg forward, even though your leg comes a little bit behind you as you're moving, but it's not the most efficient way. So by incorporating those drills, you're teaching your body to get up underneath of itself, utilize, if you watch sprinters, right, when they run, those legs are high behind them. They're engaged, their core, everything is nice and tall, they're moving forward. Someone who heel strikes, their legs can only go forward. They don't have that activation behind them. So that's where these drills are super, super important to help make you a better, more efficient runner. And you'll find too, it actually make you faster, okay? And everything will feel a lot more natural when you do this, eventually when you learn it, and you will feel so much better at the run and not so beat up and like jolted like I hear people say. The last thing I want to discuss is cadence. So cadence is how fast your feet turn over. They say the most efficient cadence is 180 beats per minute, okay? So people who have a nice fast turnover, they tend to be lighter on their feet, okay? They tend to be lighter on their feet and quieter. You ever been in the gym and you hear that guy on the treadmill? Horrible. He's bouncing all over the place, probably a lot of vertical oscillation coming down hard, so hard on your joints, okay? So hard on your body. So by having a nice high cadence, it actually helps you be lighter, quicker on your feet, and I say quiet. I always listen to myself if I'm inside running. I listen to myself that I'm nice and quiet, keep everything down. So with your cadence, you're looking for a stride rate of about 180 beats a minute. How you count that is while you're out running, count one side, one leg for 15 seconds and then multiply it by 4, okay? Then run a little bit more and do it again. How do you train yourself to get to that 180 if you're someone who runs at 150 or 160? Couple of ways. One, you use those high knees, those butt kickers, those ankle drills, and the bounding. That teaches your feet to get under you. Another great tool I love is nowadays with all the playlists out there, you can actually say go on your Spotify or whatever you have and put in songs with a 180 beats per minute, and you can try to run to that. And that'll help teach you and get it in your head. I know other people that also put metronome apps on to help teach them get there, okay? So that that'll help them get to there. But like I said, once you get there, it all helps to keep you under yourself, keep you lighter on your feet, quieter, less oscillation, okay? And then it really prevents as well that heel strike, because now you've got to keep your feet under you as you are moving. Super important, okay? And like I said, every once in a while, give yourself a check. I know with myself, I still do. Nowadays too, I know with myself, with my Garmin, it tells me my stride rate per minute. So that's a great way to monitor it, okay? And if you watch the best, fastest, most efficient runners in the world, they all follow that 180 strides per minute, okay? So that's a big thing. So overall, with our lower body, keep those the hips and glutes strong and engaged, okay? Activate them with exercises, doing those hip lifts, those circles, right? Glute bridges, all those things, those deadlifts. I can't say enough about those deadlifts to get you strong and engaged with those glutes, okay? Try to go for that mid to 4 foot strike, and you're working on those with drills, and then a cadence of about 180. At the same time, thinking about being quiet when we run and not a lot of vertical up and down, because that's causing the banging and the bouncing, and all that hurts and can bring injuries on, okay? So that's everything. We've gone through our whole body, head to toe. So what I suggest for you to do is think about 2 drills a day, or 2 body parts, like the motions per day when you're out for a run. So one day you're gonna go, you know what, I'm gonna focus on picking my feet up, and I'm gonna focus on my arms today. So what you do is go out for a run for a couple minutes, and then for 1 minute, just focus on your arms. Just focus on your arms. Then run for a few minutes. Then focus on picking those feet up behind you. One thing I didn't say in this is a good way to think about picking your feet up behind you is actually think about pushing the ground away from you. There's a whole thing called ABC drills, which we're not going to get into today, and that we talked about that pawing the ground. But I actually think about pushing the ground away from me. So I focus on that for a minute. Then I just run again. Then I focus on my arms for a minute again. Then I run for a few minutes. Back and forth. Do each one 3 times, say. And then towards the end of your run, say for 2 minutes, I'm going to put it all together. You will find that you will train your body, and you'll get it going in your body, and it learns how to move. And then what actually ends up happening is your rest of your run, even though you only did it for a minute, you'll see that it'll start following through on the rest of your run. As crazy as that may seem, okay? We also need to remember today that our body is a kinetic chain. So what happens in one area affects another area, okay? So think about all those things when you're putting it all together. You know, your foot is just the whip at the end of maybe what's going on with your head and how you're tilted, okay? That's just the end of the whole chain, and so it's gonna come through in your feet. So really, really, really think about that when you are running, okay? I truly believe that we were born to run. Our bodies were born to run. We were hunters to begin with, okay? We've become non-runners because of our lifestyles nowadays. And I think that if you put good techniques, some strengthening stuff, that you can make yourself strong and able to run pain-free, actually enjoy it. I know that my day is not complete until my run is done each day. And by incorporating these things, you can make yourself efficient, you can make yourself strong, and you've got to keep up on them. Even though you think you've got it, give yourself a check, because every once in a while, you will find that things will happen. You'll get tired and you'll fatigue and go in, because your body wants to take the path of least resistance to make it as comfortable as possible for itself, okay? It doesn't care about what you're doing, really, what you're trying to do. So think about that, okay? Because our today's lifestyle is really trying to pull us away from having all this good movement, okay? So think about all those things. Head, right? Shoulders, chest, arms, hips, glutes, foot strike. Bring those all together, get out there, go run, and have so much fun doing it.